All active duty service members and National Guard units are on federal orders to continue their duties during a shutdown, even if pay is not furnished. The October 1 paycheck for the period before the shutdown was dispersed as usual. The first paycheck that is in jeopardy is the one scheduled for October 15th. Of the 750,000 DoD civilian employees, a significant fraction are going to be furloughed. Permanent change of station moves will be restricted. Only essential moves will go forward. And then programs like childcare, commissaries, exchanges might see a strain depending on local funding, staffing. If civilian employees are furloughed, that means the people who wear the uniform feel the impact. Delays in childcare assistance payments have already been reported on some Navy bases. 1 in 3 military families is reportedly currently sitting on less than $3,000 in savings. $3,000. So missing even one paycheck can trigger an emergency. Military support organizations, credit unions, and banks are preparing or offering special aid, 0% APR loans and advances to mitigate cash flow issues. Military retirees and benefits will not see their opportunities to receive those benefits suspended. Those payments will continue. Some lawmakers are pushing a Pay Our Troops Act to ensure the military pay does continue during shutdowns. The psychological and relational stress of financial uncertainty could erode morale or add strain to the life of service family cohesion. Here with us now is the founder of Veteran Action, Mark Lucas. Mr. Lucas, thanks for joining us. How did these shutdowns affect military families?
Well, I think the greatest threat to our national security is actually Chuck Schumer and these radical Democrats who are willing to shut down the government and to stop pay to our military service members and their families and even our Border Patrol. So soldiers who are deployed overseas, we have a lot to worry about. We don't have time for distractions of not getting paid. So these service members who are forward deployed in towers conducting combat operations, in the back of their mind, they have to worry, does my wife and kids have money in the bank account to pay the mortgage? Are they going to be able to pay groceries? And so we're seeing that troops will be unfunded, but the mission has to continue. Same thing with our Border Patrol along the southern border. They have to continue the mission whether they get paid or not.
We have seen an increased focus on the mental health of our service members, and that really is tied to the family in a lot of ways. How could it not be? Do you think that Chuck Schumer just doesn't care about the impact that he's having on marriages, on child rearing, on the finances of the people brave enough to put on the uniform and defend our country?
I think he cares more about radical Democrats in his primary challenge, potentially in New York, than he does about military service members and their families. You know, we as military leaders, I was an infantry officer. Our motto was follow me. We always like to lead by example. And our founding fathers, people like Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin, they didn't just talk about freedom. They're willing to sacrifice their lives for the future of this country. And people like Chuck Schumer and scumbag Senator Ruben Gallego, they aren't even willing to give up a paycheck. Gallego told NBC News, I think just yesterday, that he's got a mortgage, he's got 3 kids, and that he can't afford to miss a paycheck. So we're seeing him as a former Marine. He's really letting down, the service members, our veterans. We need to expect more out of Congress.
Yeah, I don't know if Senator Gallego has an alimony check too, but that would seemingly add to his financial struggles. I also want to ask about the impact on vets. Though there will be benefits that are still distributed, one thing that I noted as a member of Congress was that oftentimes veterans aren't assigned the right percentage of the disability that ultimately some ailment puts on them. And you're constantly having to go back to the VA and say, no, this burn pit had this effect on me, or this deployment or this exercise had this lasting impact on my health. And those determinations about a change in a vet's status could be delayed as a consequence of this. What will that mean to veterans who are awaiting those key decisions from the VA?
I think the biggest impact on veterans is just uncertainty. There's a lot of people that think that the VA medical services are going to be shut down. That's just not true. The VA secretary had to come out in a statement yesterday and make it very clear what services were available. And I saw this also in active duty, that these shutdowns just introduce so much uncertainty and so much distraction, it really hurts people. And one thing I'd also like to bring up is our National Guard. So there should be hundreds of thousands of soldiers that report to duty this weekend. And many of them aren't going to report. They're not going to get a paycheck. And I was a company commander here in my home state of Iowa for the Army National Guard. A lot of these young enlisted soldiers depend on their drill paycheck to be able to pay their mortgage. And so also October is a very critical month in the training calendar. Typically my units would do their weapons qualification and their Army physical fitness test. Those are two key training requirements to maintain our readiness. And what we've seen under President Trump and Secretary Gaetz, we're having more deployments here to Los Angeles, to Washington, D.C. of our National Guard to maintain peace here at home. So this decision by Chuck Schumer to shut down the government is impacting our national security more than most people realize.
I wonder how this impacts morale, because we saw morale really rising. The mission set you described, saving America's cities. I think more American service members care about saving Chicago than they do Mosul. I think more of them care about Los Angeles than Kandahar. And that seemed to be invigorating. We saw it in the recruiting numbers. We saw a lot of the reforms Secretary Gaetz implementing, inspiring more Americans to service. And now you see some of those folks who are at the low end of the pay scale really wondering what life is going to be like in a couple of weeks when they miss a paycheck. How would you assess morale in the fighting force now, and what do you think the antidote is?
I agree with you. Morale is improving, and I can tell you as a soldier that deployed to those sham forever wars, I was excited, along with many others, to secure our southern border, to crush the cartels, to dismantle and destroy Antifa. These are mission sets that we're very excited to pursue. And as we're building this momentum, morale is going to take a hit because we just see that our government never has our back. If Chuck Schumer and Ruben Gallego want to continue to defund us, that could hurt reenlistments, and that uncertainty really hurts military families, and our spouses are critical in those decisions to reenlist.
If you had to share one message with a Democrat senator that might be willing to be open-minded to vote for the very same legislation that they voted for several weeks ago, what would be your message?
Put America first. President Trump won in an overwhelming landslide. He won the popular vote. He won all the critical swing states. Democrats, they only respond to power. I'd love to tell them just to put America first because it's the right thing to do. But I'm trying to explain here is that there are electoral consequences. I can tell you, Veteran Action, we're going to hold every single one of these Democrats accountable for shutting down the government, for abandoning our soldiers and their families.
Yeah, it does seem like this would be something that a lot of voters would care about, especially in military communities, especially in states like Arizona, where you've got so many bases, so many veterans, and so many military paychecks funding the dry cleaner stores and the mom and pop sandwich shops. There's a big impact to this when people don't get paid. Mark Lucas, founder of Veteran Action, thanks so much for coming on the program and sharing your expertise.
Thank you.